Hey guys, what's up? So, Deontay Wilder, not surprisingly, has made a lot of idiotic comments in the lead up to his fight with Dominic Breazeale. It's a fight that not many people are excited about. The ticket sales are not going very, very well. So some people, originally when I saw some of his comments, I thought, well, he's probably just trying to drum up interest in this fight because nobody gives a shit about it, right? There's World Boxing Super Series, that doubleheader this weekend. That's where most diehard fans are going first before they watch that Wilder fight. But I've seen the comments that he made about Dominic Breazeale and wanting a body and all this kind of stuff really, really take hold. And I've seen posts on newspapers, like national newspapers and certain media platforms and stuff that normally, rarely just don't talk about boxing, right? Rarely talk about the sport. And they're even talking about it. And some of you guys have opined on Twitter. I've seen posts everywhere, and a lot of you guys have asked me what I think. So I want to give some brief thoughts on this, but I actually printed some of the quotes here. I want to make sure I read this stuff word for word, just so nothing's taken out of context, okay? So bear with me for a second while I read some of these quotes, including Mauricio Sulaimans' reaction, the president of the WBC. So Wilder recently said on Dominic Breazeale on wanting to kill an opponent, this is the only sport where you can kill a man and get paid for it at the same time, so why not use my right to do so? His life is on the line for this fight, and I do mean his life. I'm still trying to get a body on my record. So, Sulaiman, president of the WBC, and of course Wilder holds their heavyweight title. Breazeale's challenging for it this weekend. He responded and said, I have seen Deontay Wilder's comments, which are regrettable and completely against the spirit of our sport. I have known Wilder for a long time, and he is not the person he portrays in such comments. His metaphors are against the WBC Code of Ethics and will be addressed in a hearing. So Wilder has been asked about the comments, and he's defended them because, according to him, Breazeale threatened his life before. And this is what he says here, okay? This is what he told USA Today this. He told my brother, and it was confirmed by other people that was around, I think he means were around, that Breazeale made a statement that I'll kill you. If my family wasn't here, I'd kill you and your entire family, and I don't take threats lightly. And Dominic Breazeale, for the record, he says that's not true. He says it's a flat out lie. And in fact, I'm quoting Breazeale, he said, Saturday night, he's going to pay for every lie he's made up. And I think all that refers to the hotel lobby melee they had back in Birmingham, Alabama. That's probably going back a couple of years. And, I told you guys then, these two are going to fight eventually. I mean, the WBC, Uncle Al, they're all putting this one in the back pocket just in case they need a fight to stretch things out for the Anthony Joshua thing or whatever. They're keeping this one in the back pocket, and now you see it's come to fruition. In fact, last year when Wilder was asked about the possibility of fighting Breazeale, he said, when it do happen, I think he meant to say when it does happen, I'm going to make sure he brings his son up on the stage to look the man in the eye that's going to cripple his daddy. And then just this Tuesday, Wilder said, hey, Dominic Breazeale asked for this. I didn't go seek him. He sought me. So if death comes, it comes. This is a brutal sport. It's not a gentleman's sport. You can ask any doctor around the world, and he'll tell you that the head isn't supposed to be hit. Anybody can go, and in this particular time, we have bad blood against each other. Okay, so those are the actual quotes related to this situation. So now that we got that out of the way. Am I offended by any of this? No, I don't give a shit. It's not the worst thing we've ever heard in boxing, right? We've had a lot of people keep talking about Mike Tyson and what he said, but we don't have to go that far back, okay? We could go back to recent times. Fighters like Floyd Mayweather and Bernard Hopkins have said some flat-out racist, homophobic, sexist things. I mean, Kubrat Pulev just did some weird shit with that one chick in, was that in Las Vegas? I believe it was in Las Vegas after a fight where he kissed a girl without her consent, apparently. We've seen boxers behave badly and say bad things. Sergey Kovalev had some words that really offended people in relation to Adonis Stevenson. Now, he claimed that those were responses to Adonis Stevenson calling him an ugly monkey. So he sent out a tweet with a kid wearing a shirt, I think a t-shirt that had a monkey on it, and he said, hey, Adonis looks great, and that offended people. We've had boxers say and do this stuff for years. I'm not offended. I don't personally give a damn about what Wilder's saying, and based on everything I personally know about Wilder, The last time I actually interacted with him in person was like several years ago, like 3-4 years ago. He was nowhere near as popular as he is now, and he's not very popular, regardless of what ESPN tells you. The metrics they used, by the way, for that report about the most popular fighters in the world or athletes in the world on social media, complete rubbish. Those metrics were dog shit. Anyway, Wilder is a lot more popular now than he was a few years ago. So when I met him, and he was this nice, sweet guy, quiet guy, and everyone I've ever talked to that came up around him or worked with him coming up, in the gym, stuff like that, said the same thing about him. Is he still that same guy? Is this all an act? Or has he changed in the last couple of years? Has money and a little bit of fame he does have in certain sectors and corners of the media, he's been on some reality shows and stuff like that, has that got to his head? Has he changed personalities? Have things flipped? Or is this a strategic thing he's trying to do to market himself? We don't know. Nobody really knows except for the people in Deontay's personal life, right? So anybody on the internet, including me, who tells you they know what's going on here for certain is lying to you. And I'm not going to sit here and do that. This is all speculation. I'll tell you what I do personally know in my personal interaction with him. He's not like this in person, at least the guy I know. And this seems to be a little bit of an act to try to sell a fight that's not selling very well because nobody wanted it except for the folks at PBC and the WBC. So look, am I offended by this speech? No. And just to give you guys a little bit of insight to my political beliefs on stuff like this. So I am a classical liberal. I don't mean what the far left the modern far left deems as a liberal now, because they've completely bastardized and perverted that term. I'm talking about the tenets of classical liberalism that goes back centuries. That is staunchly, fiercely defending individual freedoms and liberties, okay? I don't care about the group, I care about the individual. And I will always fiercely support free speech, even if it's whacked out, batshit crazy free speech or offensive, nasty, dirty, vile free speech. I don't give a damn. I defend free speech. So I don't care what Deontay Wilder said, he has the right to say it. Now, if the WBC, which is a private company, wants to punish him in some way, it's probably going to be a slap on the wrist, a 1-month suspension, which in boxing means nothing, right? If it's something like, if they want to do that, that's their right, because they're a private entity and he holds their title, yada yada yada. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't really give a shit about what he said. It doesn't bother me one iota. What I do have an issue with is the hypocrisy. There's a lot of hypocrisy with Deontay Wilder and the media reaction here. So I wanted to get into that a little bit here, okay? First of all, last year when he was about to fight Tyson Fury, there was a lead up. I don't know if it was at the weigh-in or what it was, maybe a presser. Fury was talking about the gypsy people and what they've been through, and Wilder got all pissed off and mad and said, well, black folks, we've been through a lot more than you, so shut up to this day. And he started talking about to this day, right? You guys have seen the memes that went viral. A lot of the metrics that ESPN used in determining how popular Deontay Wilder is came from that little spike in because of the to this day meme and his popularity on the internet kind of took off for a little while because of that to this day thing, right? There was like this and then boom on the graph because that trended on Twitter and everything else. But before and after that, anyway. So to this day, right? And so when he made that civil rights speech of to this day, some of the crazy whacked out activists that exist in the world saw that and pounced on dude, because whenever they find someone that they can latch on to use for their advantage, that's what they do. So all of a sudden now, over the last year, Deontay Wilder has become some civil rights guru and activist. Even Showtime, as the preview show for his fight with Breazeale, they talked about that incident, and they showed Deontay going to some, I think it was a civil rights monument or something. I didn't watch the show, I just saw a clip of it on Twitter. Anyway, so he's become this civil rights guy, and he's talked in the past about how he doesn't get enough fan love and support in the United States because he's black. He's alluded to the fact that it's due to racism, quote unquote. I'm using air quotes there because I don't agree with him. I think that's ridiculous. I defend his right to say it, but there's absolutely no evidence for what he's saying. So he brings race into the mix all the time, right? And he talks about how, he talks about the past, all the terrible, terrible history of, racial strife in this country, and there's plenty of it, and in this world, which still continues to this day in many other parts of the world. And that I understand. He talks about all that. He alludes to the fact that because he's a black guy, that's why he's not very popular here in the United States, even though the most popular athletes in the United States, many of them are black. So he's all over the place with this stuff. And then literally he's talking about killing a man in the ring who, Dominic Breazeale, I believe he's of mixed ancestry, but he's at least part black. So you're talking about killing a guy who's part black while being a champion, pro-black, black civil rights, and all at the same time, you're blaming America, racist America, for not being a supporter of you because you're black, when you're talking about killing a guy who's part black. All of this, and underneath it, you look at crime statistics. Young black men in this country make up about 5% of the American population. They commit half the murder. 5% of the population commits half the murder. Rough 5 or 6%. Because black folks make up 13%, but I'm talking about young black men. That's primarily don't take my word for it, guys. The statistics are all there. A disproportionate amount of all violent crime. And I'm not saying this as some political statement. These are just facts. And Deontay Wilder is talking about killing a guy who's part black. Killing anybody as a black guy or as an American in general is a horrible look. But in the midst of, I'm Mr. Pro-Black to this day, nobody likes me because I'm black, yet you're talking about killing people. Now, I know this subject matter is very uncomfortable for a lot of you guys, and I'm not trying to get into a freaking holy war here, okay? And keep it civil in the damn comment section. But the reality is that that's a really loaded statement coming from Deontay Wilder, because it's not the first time he has said things like this. And given the background of everything else the guy has said that I've just alluded to, it's very, very hypocritical, ill-advised, and flat out ignorant. It's just stupid. And it's not going to help him market this fight. If it does help him market this fight, it's going to do so in a bad way. I've said this about Deontay in the past. Dude, who are you trying to appeal to? Are you trying to have mass appeal, or are you trying to appeal to a very small segment of the population that will appreciate the idiotic things you're saying? I think a lot of fighters look at what Floyd Mayweather did, using some of the rhetoric he used, and how it worked with a certain segment of the population. And Mayweather more or less manipulated a lot of his fans. Not all, but a lot of his fans, because some of Floyd's fans were there for the whole ride and very astute, knowledgeable boxing fans. But a large portion of the casual fans he brought on were there for political reasons and things like that. And he manipulated those folks to make himself filthy freaking rich. And a lot of fighters coming up now, especially in America, especially under the PBC banner, not all, but especially there, because it's the same folks managing them that were involved with Floyd, so there's connections there. They look at Floyd and they're like, man, I want to do what he did. What they don't understand is that was a one-off. That's not going to happen again. The whole Mayweather-Pacquiao thing, where they sold millions and millions and millions of pay-per-views, and they milked it for almost a decade, and they completely manipulated the American sports fan with that whole thing. Dude, that's never going to happen again, not on that scale. There will be smaller versions of it, yes, for sure. I mean, you saw Mayweather and McGregor. That was a slightly different fan base that they were manipulating there. They needed McGregor to pull in more people to manipulate. But, that whole Ponzi scheme is done. So if Wilder thinks that doing this is going to make him the next Floyd Mayweather, he's sadly mistaken. So I think that him and some of the people around him need to reevaluate who they want to market to. What kind of fan base do you want, dude? What kind of support do you want? Do you want to be yourself and eventually you being the person that you are, the good guy you are, if you really are a good guy, that will finally win people over. And eventually you'll get the big fight against Joshua, or maybe a rematch against Fury, whatever it is. And, you know, you'll prove yourself. And whether you win or lose those fights, you'll prove your mettle. You know, I mean, Wilder showed some stuff in the fight against Ortiz and the fight against Fury. Regardless of how you feel about the outcome of those fights and everything else, he showed some intestinal fortitude, and he won over some fans that he didn't have just because of his performance in the ring in those fights. That's all he needs to do. He doesn't need to pull all this other bullshit, especially on the backdrop of everything else I mentioned here that a lot of you guys are going to get seriously offended with. So one more hypocritical thing, okay? Some of the media reaction. There are entities in our media, and I'm not talking about fringe media that, you know, just has a boxing blog somewhere. I'm talking about actual paid media folks, okay? Folks that, you know, whether you're writing for a serious online publication, you're paid for your work, or a magazine, or a TV platform, whatever it is, are defending Wilder's comments. Some of the same folks who just blasted Angel Garcia and Danny Garcia's father for his stupid comments, and still rail against Sergey Kovalev for things he said in interviews that go back well over a decade by now, I think over a decade ago, or at least close to that. You're talking stuff he said years ago in a Russian interview. They still beat the guy up and label him. And other fighters that have just gone after some of these dudes are defending Wilder's comments and trying to play it down. And that's an issue. You have to hold everybody to the same damn standard, okay? And some of these guys, you know, they're connected politically, sometimes connected financially to folks at the PBC, and that's why they're defending Wilder. And they're getting, you know, easy access to Wilder. And some of these same guys who will tweet and comment about how main events and Sergey Kovalev's people won't answer their calls because they're so critical of him, I think to the level of obsession and extremism. You know, they're so critical of him, you know, and they tweet about they can't get access to him anymore, are the same guys defending Deontay Wilder here. And I just, you know, that sort of thing is the problem with boxing media. It doesn't just exist in boxing media, it's all entertainment media, even news media now. But that sort of thing, you know, you look, man, you can't be afraid to criticize somebody when they do or say something stupid. As I said in this video, okay, let me just really quickly recap. I fiercely defend Wilder's right to say whatever the hell he wants to say, but I also fiercely defend my right to disagree with it. And I gave my reasons why. Now, some of you out there may disagree with my reasoning. You may, whatever. I staunchly, fiercely defend your right to disagree with it. The thing is, guys, we can all disagree, but it doesn't mean we have to hate each other and call each other names and label each other all these terms that end with IST or whatever, right? We don't have to go there because none of that's true. We can have different opinions, and if you give me your opinions and your reasoning for those opinions, and they're objective, well thought out, and logical, whether I agree or disagree, cool, we can have civil discourse. That's what this is all about. That's what we need more of on platforms like this. And unfortunately, we're not getting that. We're not getting that on the YouTube boxing community, the Twitter boxing community, just all of social media and general media with related to boxing. We're just not getting that kind of civil discourse. People are jumping to their side and they're doing this shit, right? They're either not talking to each other at all and they're just talking in their little echo chamber, their closed little circles, or they're just butting heads and calling each other names. That kind of bullshit needs to stop. So anyway, look, Wilder can say whatever the hell he wants to. This shit ain't helping him market a fight. This isn't helping market himself. It's making him look like a hypocrite and an ignorant person. And from all accounts I've heard and from my little interaction with him, I really don't think he is that. I think that underneath all this crap, whether things have gotten to his head or underneath all this, he's a good guy. He seems to be a good father, a good guy in his personal life. There's just no need for this bullshit, right? So just, dude, wise up. You know, again, who do you want to be associated with? Guys, if I can give you a little bit of unsolicited advice before I tune off here, before you say what you say, whatever you're going to say, wherever you're going to say it, ask yourself, is this going to help me? Is this going to be advantageous for me to say this? And always remember, you are the company you keep. You know what I'm saying? Who do you want in your life? Do you want positive people that are lifting you up? Or do you want to be around a bunch of negative people that are pulling you down? Deontay Wilder should think about that next time he has something stupid to say.